All right, folks, let's talk satellite phones for a minute. If you jump over to sat123.com, this is the way to go. I'm telling you, if you watch what's happening in Maui, Hawaii right now, with these cell towers being taken down and this blazing fire that came through, leaving people without the ability to reach out and get help. Having a satellite phone in your quiver is a great thing to do for you and for your family. Listen, there's a reason why the senators are all getting their hands on these things, okay? Now, listen, if you jump over again, sat123.com, or just hold your camera up and hit that QR code, that right there will take you directly to sat123.com. Through the satellite phone store, they've got some amazing deals happening right now. They've got the Iridium 9555, which in my opinion is the best satellite phone on the planet, coupled with a little solar charging panel and a Faraday bag. And then, of course, they've got this, which is a battery backup. Nice little APU to have. It comes with the satellite phone and a Faraday pouch. And then, of course, this one here, you buy one, get one free. It's a limited time offer. It's the 9575 satellite phone. And again, amazing phones, amazing network. That's sat123.com, sat123.com, or you can give them a call at 941-955-1020 and tell them Monkey sent you. All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be your SITREP. It is 8/16/2023. And so without further ado, let's hop over there. If you would hit that like and subscribe and the bell for notification, it helps the channel out tremendously. And let's get into what's going on. We'll start off in our mini-me board. That's because I'm mini down in the corner. That's how we get that. Looking at Skyglass, as always, like I said, the best just from an aircraft tracker perspective, there's nothing else that even touches it, comes close. And the stuff that is coming with this particular software in the near future is going to blow your minds. It is, I've seen it. I've gotten a sneak peek of all the stuff that is in Werx. When they load the weather into this, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch the weather aspect tied to all of this weather modification stuff that we are going to be talking about today in the show, as well as the other, shenanigans that our military and our government are up to around the world. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about, we're going to talk Hawaii. We're going to talk about weather modification and the stuff that NASA's up to currently over the Northeast. And then we're going to get into this whole constitutional suspension deal. And it's just amazing that they could even do that. But let's just kind of count through the numbers here as we're looking at the sky today. The NAs are 78. Those are incognito aircraft. Those are people that do not want to be tracked. All right. But this is all military that we're looking at, by the way. Text 2s are now at 39. It was at 100 plus just about 30 minutes ago. And T-38s are sitting at 36. We do have a pretty high number of aircraft. Given the time of day, it's pretty early. 289 on screen. That's after we've already taken out 75 trainers. Okay, if we just peel the onion a little bit and look at the KC-135s, you got 37 of those up. That's a very high number. I will tell you that is that's probably one of our. We'll put on the traces for a second. See if we can tell where these guys are heading and what they're supporting. And then let's go down a little further. I'm going to switch this around, look at it alphabetically so I can actually get a better bead on this. If we add not just those, but we add the 767-200 Pegasus, we've got 8 of those, 37 KC-135s, and then let me see if I have any DC-10s that are showing, not seeing it. So we're okay there. But a total on screen, 45. So 45 air refuelers. The last time we saw a number that was higher than that was tied to the FAA system going down, okay? Just kind of put things in perspective for you. But that right there tells you that there are a lot of fighters over the United States. They don't stay up aloft a long time without having to get some kind of fuel to keep them going. And so this is always a good indicator to tell you, kind of what's happening here in the U.S. Get your finger on the pulse, so to speak. This is an astronomical number, though. I will say that's a lot of air refuelers that are up. Okay, let's look at Europe and see if we've got any over there as well. They have since gone dark, I will say, compared to what we have seen in the past. Not uncommon, but it goes to tell you that the tempo when it comes to this whole war piece going on, with geopositioning of assets. We've got a lot of equipment moving around over here, but these right here are a good indicator of fighters. When you only see one of them up, something ain't right. I guarantee you there's more air refuelers up. We just don't see them between the Middle East, down here, and up here into Europe. They're just not being seen. Okay. Hop back over to CONUS and see if there are any other numbers that catch my attention. I did have about 40 H-60 Blackhawks that were showing just before we did this as well. Let me see if we still have. Now we're sitting at 22, so we're about half right now. But that is a pretty large number as well. Normally, 6 to 8 maybe we see. So, and usually they're down here in the Panhandle area because that's a big training area, right? So, but this is a pretty large number of Blackhawks that are currently up. All right, let's look at our watch list. I will say when I get into this, you're going to see I've stripped it out from the survey planes. We're going to look at those separately because they are taking up a lot of stuff. Notice the Intel balloons out over Baja, Southern California, 2 of them currently up. A NASA U-2 is also getting airborne out in Southern California. And then more Intel balloons over the center of the United States. Q-9 drone. I got a lot of intelligence. E6, Takamo, that's a Navy bird that catches my eye. Then we've got, if we kind of spin it around here, you're going to see the Trump train. There it is, the 757-200 Trump aircraft. Here's a little bigger shot of it for you so you can see. He seems to be headed northbound probably out of Florida, headed back up to his northeast home. And then we've got, that is actually, would be Air Force One. Flying as NA, you can never tell these days, but it is in North Carolina. It looks to be doing some touch and goes in and out of North Carolina, so I'm sure that's getting some attention. And then we go over here, you will see the Doomsday Bird. That is 747-200, not 21, and that is also up. And then let's go over to Europe and take a look at what we have. Let me back it up a little. That right there is going to be a drone, a low-altitude drone over Denmark, and then it looks like you've got the German Intel balloons, right? Normal occurrence there. And then that's a Ruski. That's a Russian plane coming out of Moscow. A little bit further south, you'll notice we've got that one right there coming out of Malta, looking very closely at the water. We'll look at those further in a minute. Got a drone. It's got a in-flight emergency, and then a lot of other drones that are up as well over Turkey. And then this Weather Modification LLC. Yeah. Modifying the weather there in Saudi. Always interesting to see them. I'm sure they are getting paid a beautiful premium to do that work. All right, let's get over here to the Intel aircraft. Notice southern coast of California and then south of Tucson. That's a normal area for us, south of Tucson, but the Southern Cal side, there's something going on down south of California just based on the intelligence balloons that are also hanging. And then we got some transitions here. Look like one headed up there to Canada, and then 2 headed across the drink. These are going to be probably LaSalle Aviation type aircraft. So that means we've got some new ones headed into Europe. Looks like one landed in the UK, one landed up here in Scotland, which is northern UK. And then we've got this one. Notice running little lines looking out there at the Baltic Sea, more than likely out of Sweden. And then this, getting a good hard look at Kaliningrad, Belarus, St. Petersburg, up in Russia, and then down here in and out of Constanta, and then over Romania. And we go a little further south. Notice we got some stuff going on there in Turkey as well. And then this one over Jordan. So what has been going on down there that they are gathering intelligence within Iraq, within Saudi? I think it's probably the Russians. Okay. And then nothing going on down under. And then we go a little further north past Darwin. And notice that we've got a little bit of stuff there in the Philippines. All right, let's talk survey flights for a minute. And 187 is our number last 3 days. Still continuing to see stuff going on over the United States. As always, this is, in my opinion, they are shaping the battlefield. And if you take the Wi-Fi capability that we just discussed the other day, and imagine that you've got everybody down to basically a boxcar. You're going to know what rooms they're in and where they're moving to in real time with that Wi-Fi router, coupled by the AI and the other capabilities that are being engaged here. Okay, so this is gathering LiDAR data. It's survey flights again. They're all around the world, but primarily over the United States and Australia. Still have a little bit of legwork going on in Europe. We've got some stuff there in the northern side of Netherlands, and then in just kind of northeast of our military operations there in Poland. And then, of course, we've got, looks to be Portugal and Spain, and then some stuff going on over the water there. Let's go over to the Ruskies. And you're going to notice a little bit of work there in Turkey. And then notice this one into Moldova. A lot of traffic in and out of Moscow. Again, this is the last 3 days. And then stuff headed eastward, still within Russia. But there is talk about them being in Nigeria. And I will tell you, you don't see any flights down to South Africa. So, or to Africa, Central Africa for that matter. Yeah, so that just means that there are already boots on the ground down there, okay? Okay, now this can be your drone flights. Southern California, again, I think there's something going on off the coastline we're not hearing about. And then just notice all of this north of Tripoli, north of in the water there, Mediterranean, north of Libya, back and forth near Benghazi and Tripoli, and then that coming in and out of Malta. There's something they're looking at in the water in that general region. And then, of course, over Constanta, that's the only port that we're able to get things in and out of. All right. And then Turkey, as always. Of course, these are drones, right? So different levels of drones. And then let me do this. I'm going to go back to our mini board. We're going to talk a little news, and then I'm going to show you some weather modification stuff, and then we're going to get into all of the other little fun things, all right? So let me minimize this screen. We'll come back to the weather piece here in just a minute. We'll start off looking at Flashbang, a.k.a. Joe Biden, and what he is up to today. It looks like he's got an in-town pool call starting around 10 a.m., and then let's see, we'll go down a little further. Notice you got a little FEMA stuff making the podium today. Clean energy, yeah, right. You would think there'd be a lot of discussion here. Hawaii is in utter chaos, and you'd think that they would be talking more about Hawaii and what we're doing to help them and everything else, right? No such thing. So what's he going to talk about today? He's talking about the anniversary of his Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, he says that he wishes he hadn't called it that because it's going the opposite direction. And basically, you know, along with Bidenomics, it's a total disaster. But it's what he's going to be talking about today. All right. So let's move on. Don't want to give this guy too much press. We got too many other good things to cover about him. Maui's emergency sirens failed to alert residents. So as we're hearing about all of this, looking at the chaos, some really strange things occurring. Won't get into all of that here, but definitely some suspect stuff happening, okay? But nonetheless, they're saying that the emergency system never even went off, that these people didn't even see it coming, and it swept through so fast. You can look, what's really strange about all of this is that you can see cars that are completely just charred and houses that are just burnt to the ground. There's nothing but rubble left, and yet you'll have a palm tree right beside it that's just, you know, green as can be. So it's just crazy how this thing happened, all right? All right, speaking of Bazooka Joe, let's see. Biden promises Maui fire survivors $700 per household. That's going to go a long way. Remember, most of the homes here in that particular area are around $1 million. So him giving them $700 is less than what he has spent on Ukraine. To the case in point, if you go to Ukraine and look at, the entire population of Ukraine, it's about $1,600 and some change per household, or actually per person, not even per household. So, $700 a household is just a slap in the face. And of course, they'll get taxed on that $700. So, all I can say is I pray that they don't have Allstate as their insurance carrier, because if they do, as soon as they file a claim on $1 million home that has been completely just scorched to ash, they'll probably get about $250,000 from Allstate, because that is how they roll, their policy. They'll give you just a little sliver of what something is really worth. You can see I'm definitely butthurt level Bravo in dealing with them on my own instance. They're horrible. They are the essence of chaos or mayhem, as they have in their commercials. So anyway, let's just hope that these folks don't have them. All right. Yeah, let's move on. Let's get over to this side. Death toll from Maui fire could double or even triple. That's coming from the governor. Yeah, the latest number is sitting close to 100, and they're saying it's going to be a lot higher. They're actually talking around 1,000 plus that are still missing. So this is not going to have a good outcome. When you look at the pictures of all of this, they're comparing it to a modern day Pearl Harbor, that the numbers that happened during 9/11 are probably going to be exceeded. And even in Pearl Harbor, they're going to be exceeded. This is absolute destruction of an entire community. Now, to add insult to injury, this is where it gets really crazy. There are people that have just lost their homes, that are being contacted, that people are trying to buy their land. They don't care about the home or anything else. They want to buy the land. And you would think that people would have a little bit of respect for the lost and for people that are grieving and going through this process, and the fact that people are trying to actually bombard them with offers on their land stuff it's pretty amazing, right? So keep your eye on all of this. There's more behind this, and I think James and I are going to talk on Thursday about this specifically. At least that's what our conversation was last night, because if you look at who owns a great deal of land on Maui, Oprah is one of the biggest landowners, I think, on Maui itself. And so anyway, let's move on over here. Now, we were talking NASA for a minute. We're going to talk about weather modification, et cetera. This is the one that is currently up, or at least showing as on ground and active. It's a DC-8, tail number N817NA. This is one that we were looking at the other day. We're going to look closer because this is the activity that is associated with this and one other aircraft. But this is the last 3 days. Notice where the concentration is. We got that little U2 down here in Los Angeles, which is low altitude, really strange. But notice these different altitudes running those swim lanes. Yeah, and then, yeah, kind of over Chicago. Remember, that was Illinois that just put out or tried to pass a bill that said, hey, no more weather modification over our state. Well, then they retracted it. Notice you got this down over the Gulf of Mexico as well. But very interesting indeed. This is, like I said, something we need to keep our eyes on, because when you talk about chemtrails, you talk about cloud seeding. I've actually had people contact us that used to work or were engaged with weather modification at NOAA, doing cloud seeding, and in the early days. And so, but this still goes on. And if you don't think they do it, we just caught them the other day flying over Toronto, dumping out and spewing a bunch of pink stuff out of the airplane. So go figure. I've actually had others that have come forward with more pictures in different areas like Ontario of them doing the same thing. So, all right, pay attention to that. And then let's look at the weather mod. We caught them in Saudi Arabia, Weather Mod LLC. Notice that they are very active or somewhat active, given the fact that we have a high pressure dome over Texas. They seem to be very active out in West Texas. And then that's a transition. So one is coming either north or south there. We'll keep an eye out for it to see if they bump back up and start messing around with stuff either in Georgia or north of that. But then we get over here to Saudi Arabia. Again, last 3 days, this is Weather Modification LLC. We just looked at that here a minute ago. As you can see, yeah, there you go. Pretty, I mean, it is what it is, right? Now we know. Okay, so let's break back over here to our mini board. Let's get into what's going on around the world. as we get into this weather stuff. Now, we talk weather. We're gonna talk TFRs for a minute. Also, just notice how the hurricane aspect is on the uptick. We've got a lot of stuff down here off the coast of Mexico that looks to be pretty promising. Notice where it's headed. Really, really kind of crazy to see one rolling up into here. It looks like it's going to weaken, but it looks like Southern California is about to get a pretty significant rain event. And then, of course, we get out here. This is headed towards Hawaii. They're saying this is also expected to weaken. Currently, it looks to be going into a depression. But this, not really good if you get wind when you've got fire. Rain, it wouldn't be too bad, but then you got to worry about all of the ground being, basically nothing on it. It's all scarred. Then you get that, what they call, I think it's scar flooding. So keep your eye on that. Again, keep folks in Hawaii in your prayers. They could really use it right now. Okay. All right. This is TFR wise. Looks like flashbang is going to be headed up here. And we know that because of the size of the TFR circle. August 17th, headed up to Scranton, Pennsylvania. So he's headed up to Dunder Mifflin and to see Michael Scott. And then it looks like from there, he's actually going to bounce in. We've got 3 TFRs here. Notice, if you would, there are smaller boxes inside of bigger boxes. I don't know the significance of that, but I do know Hagerstown is that he's heading to the bunker. All right, that's going to be Camp David. He's headed in there. And so it looks like the date, at least on one of these, is going to be the 17th as well. So he's going to be all in the same day, headed up here, then headed back down here. And he'll probably be in there over the weekend if I had to guess. All right. There is where we stand with this. All right. Now, let's keep on moving. Now, let's talk this in terms of guns. Let's talk about suspending the Constitution. The only one that I've heard actually say it out loud was Trump. And he's talking about his current situation and what happened previously, right, with the whole 2020 thing. Okay. But this is flashbang, right? He's talking about, I did it once before and I'll do it again, as he continues beating the drum for an assault weapons ban. And you can get down into the main crux of all of this. Basically, in the U.S., previously had an assault weapons ban that was in place in 2004, which has now expired. And some Americans, like flashbang, want to see another ban enacted. So they're trying to pass it. They tried to pass it last year, and it didn't make it because it had to get through the Senate. The Senate shot it down. But listen, folks, when they start coming for your guns, that's where you got to pay close attention, because this, look back at history, all right? You can look at Stalin, look at Pot, look at Hitler, look at Mao. Those guys just completely between themselves killed tens of millions of people, but they took their guns first. So anytime a government is telling you that they need to take your guns, it's because they're about to make a move on you, okay? So if we allow any of this to occur, it's on us. That's all I can say. All right. So this is what it means, basically, the suspension clause. You think, why is that even in there? Why? I mean, our Constitution should never be suspended, ever. Okay. Because the minute that is suspended, you lose all your rights. Okay. You lose your right of free speech. You lose your right to bear arms. You lose everything. So check this out. The suspension clause follows in this tradition. It protects basically imposing a general bar on a suspension. At the same time, it makes an exception for cases when an invasion or rebellion endangers public safety. Remember that key word, rebellion. A suspension is temporary, not necessarily, but they say that, okay? But the power it confers is extraordinary. When the suspension is in effect, the president, typically acting through subordinates, can imprison people indefinitely without any judicial check. All right? Let that sink in. So if they suspend the Constitution, that means basically it is martial law in essence. Okay? You have no rights as a citizen, They can come and take anything they want at any time they want, okay? And they can put you in jail indefinitely without any type of representation. So think about that for a minute. We're hearing chatter, and I will tell you the chatter that I've heard about this suspension clause or this constitutional suspension was coming from within inside the Beltway, and it was a conversation that was had between the ATF and the administration, okay? And that conversation was talking about ghost guns and their ability to basically put out a constitutional suspension and take everything you got in terms of guns. That was how they're going to go about it. It's the only way they could go about it. So they think. So just a heads up, because it's a discussion that's happening in conversations. And if they do that, like I said, you look at the survey flights, you look at the battlefield that they are mapping out, you put those into grids, and then you start to execute the plan of going house to house to start sweeping. My guess is that they have a list probably of everybody that owns a gun. The reason ghost guns are so scary to them is because they don't know who owns those guns. But if they have a list and you're on that list and you're somebody like, that's out here in social media like myself, you're going to be at the top of that list. And when they come knocking, they're going to hit, a higher level first. And then they're going to go through the ranks. And if you're somebody that owns a lot of guns, then you're probably going to be on that list. So anyway, it's just food for thought. It's a data point, but like I said, that conversation has been taking place, and we need to all be paying very close attention to what is going on with the survey flights, with just ear to the ground. Okay, folks? All right, let's talk NOTAMs. We did go over briefly the TFRs that were coming up. That's up here in this general region. But if we take a look, we've got a box here off the west coast of Florida still. We have this one down in Southern California. Again, same thing. We've been talking about this for a little while. There is definitely something happening out here beyond just a red flag that had taken place in Nellis. The fact that they have parked two intelligence balloons, high altitude at that, out in this general area tells you there's more going on out here than we are being told, okay? This yellow blob, as in this yellow blob, those are going to be high turbulent areas, okay? That's weather. If you're flying through here or here, buckle up. It's going to be bumpy, okay? Now, some of the other boxes around here are fire boxes. Let's get up here to Alaska and notice you've got this really long box here. This is probably a MILOP. And it says a red flag, Yukon 7 stationary altitude reservation. So, not sure what's happening there. But remember, HARP is in here. Okay. So looks like they've got some stuff happening here. This is the border between, this is Canada over here and U.S. over here. But notice Canada also has their own little thing going here. This box has been here for a little while. This one has not, but again, just keep a close eye on that. And let me back up. We'll get over here to Europe. Just notice you got a missile launch box, it looks like out here. That's probably the Ruskies. And as we kind of dig in a little deeper, let's see if we've got anything that really catches my eye. No, I think it looks to be just kind of the normal status quo. The stuff out in the North Sea, kind of commonplace. Same thing with here. It looks to me like all of the folks that are tied to NATO are trying to protect their particular area. I mean, that makes sense, right? So anyway, let's move on from that. Let's get over to a couple more news items. Remember, we were showing the fact that the flights from Russia are kind of staying within Russia, other than the one that went down to Moldova. But this is alarming the West, as Putin has begun to mediate in Niger through this whole coup crisis that we've been talking about. Keep in mind, this is making them very uneasy. The fact that the U.S. State Department tried to step in and stronghold them, or strong arm them, and it looks like they are leaning towards working with Russia. The interesting piece is if you look at the number one export out of Nigeria, that is uranium. So, yeah, we'll just keep our eye on the pulse, or finger on the pulse here, eye on what's going on. But it's just a data point for us, okay? All right, EU delivers Ukraine 224,000 shells under the ammo plan. They have a plan to provide 1 million artillery rounds. So this is just the first batch. But as I've said in the past, there are very little indicators that things are de-escalating. In fact, people just keep putting in more and more. So we'll continue to watch that. And then the U.S. on the same, coming out of the same side of the house here, U.S. sends Ukraine more ammunition after an accounting revision. You may remember we've had several of these now where they just happen to find money. The last one we do believe, and of course is speculation, but we do believe that was paid to for an attempted coup on Moscow, that they basically took their money and then went in hiding. And it's kind of funny that they got played. So anyway, but this is, again, $200 million in new ammunition we just so happen to find. Of course, we don't have the ammunition. That's probably the bigger trick. But nonetheless, it's amazing how we just tend to, line something out, little erase, and then write in a new amount when it's convenient. So they don't do that on your taxes by any means, do they? Oh, hey, we found an error. Here's some money back. Yeah, that doesn't happen. All right, let's get over to Biggs Army Airfield just to point out some of the flights that catch my eye. We have some A320s, A319s, and a 767. These are Allegiant Air. This one's coming out of Grand Rapids. This one is coming out of CVG, which is the airport there in Kentucky, Cincinnati, Kentucky. This, I don't have a good feeling about these. These are typically tied to the immigrant side of the house, okay? So this one is usually, it's a camber flight. It's going to be military. It's probably troop related, more than likely, because it is a camber designation. And then over here, that Allegiant, just notice where it's heading to, Dayton, Ohio from there. And then that camber flight's headed to Baltimore, Washington. I don't see the other one on the board yet for the other Allegiant that was there, okay? Get over to this side. It's going to be over to Dover, and a lot of Cessna 172s, a little nice one there. Let me go down the line. Not seeing any up here, but I do see one. That's going to be an Atlas Air 747 come out of Miami. And over here to the outbound board, nothing. So it's slowed down a lot for the middle of the week in terms of 747s out of Dover. Let's take a look at Ramstein, see what we've got. A couple 747s inbound. This one's coming from Doha, which is a massive runway, by the way, in the Middle East. If you've ever seen it, it is, you could land space shuttle on that thing, no doubt about it. It's got a super long runway. And then this 777 out of Baltimore, that's troops. More than likely, this is carrying something. But notice where they're coming in and out of, coming into Ramstein. And then outbound, that trip 7200 is destination unknown. And then this one, camber flight to Kuwait. Again, pretty big buildup going on in the Middle East right now. We've seen that with the stuff going on with Russia and Syria, as well as all of the things happening in Africa. Okay, so it looks like we are really starting to stack up. I've heard rumors of troops being sent to Africa, but don't have anything yet concrete. Okay. All right, let's go through the board here. This is going to be your forward operating base in Poland, and not seeing anything. Boy, it's really slow. This one right here is Belgium Air Force, but I don't know what that is. Probably a C-130 or something. Heading on down, nothing at all. Really strange. Okay, there's a Coletta that is on the docket coming out of Newark, New Jersey. 747-400. That's the only thing I see. And we go up here to the outbound board. Super, super, super quiet. There's one Antonov. That's a Russian bird, but that's an AN-124. It's a transport, a large transport. Think C5. This is the largest transport in the world, the Antonov 124. All right. And then nothing else. Wow. Really, really quiet. Very strange. That means our troops more than likely are all in place. That means equipment is either it is a pause between stuff, or we've got everything we got to date already in play, and it's starting to slow down. We'll see what Friday looks like. Here's your camber flight. Again, Ramstein, Baltimore, and Fort Worth look to be the 3 locations. Those, given the aircraft type, those are going to be troops, okay? Destination unknown. Western Global out of Anchorage headed down to Los Angeles. Again, I think this is a staging ground for some of the artillery that they're getting from South Korea. All right. Well, we do have one, just one. This will be a NATO bird, T055. And notice this one is looks to be coming out of Saudi Arabia. Interesting. NATO coming out of Saudi. All right, there's that. Now let's talk UN for just a second as we get into this, just to point out the last 3 days, what they have been up to. Notice a little bit of work there in Mali and some back and forth, and then we head over to this side. They tucked into the corner of Niger, and then it looks like Ethiopia, then over to Qatar, and then we've got some flights coming in and out of Amman, Jordan, down south. Notice that they don't land anywhere. They just fly over the Red Sea. There's a couple that drop down there in Saudi, but no real landing site. So interesting. Just, again, thought we'd look at UN since we're talking about NATO. I've got the fleet loaded into my watch list now of tracking the UN stuff. So we'll see where they go. But, all right, over to Omni. This is going to be, again, these are charters that move a lot of U.S. soldiers and stuff. Okay. All right, here we go. Manchester to Toronto, and then that's they're moving the Canadians back and forth in and out of the UK, and then it looks like Guam over to Hawaii here. So out here into Hawaii. All right, that's Oahu. All right, the Brits super active and busy. At least they were in that last picture. Doesn't look like that now. Only 3 flights up. Looks like Cyprus is a pretty big staging ground. These guys are in and out of this location. And then we get a little further north. Looks to be headed inbound to, but notice where they're coming out of. Wiesbaden, that's an army base in Germany. And Munich, out of Germany as well. So the Brits are hot and heavy in Germany right now. All right. Okay, this is going to be our immigrant machine, and you'll notice my board just changed over, but let me tell you, notice how much stuff is north of the border, right? These are all flights. Regular one we're seeing Ontario to Greensboro. We've got this one headed down to Columbus, Georgia. Several in and out of Alexandria, 72-hour holding facility. And then this one looks to be headed up to Reno from Phoenix. More than likely, these are supporting the Amazon side of the house. Good, cheap labor, right? And then a lot of people getting deported. And then we'll just take a quick look at Guantanamo Bay. Not seeing too much there. We've been, keeping our eye on it, but we just don't report on it too much. But you can see we've got one departure that's going to be kind of a normal for this, this time of week. And it's just legal eagles coming in and out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station. That's the only thing I've got on here. So, all right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for SITREP today. You guys keep your ear to the ground, because when you start hearing about people and rumblings inside the Beltway of constitutional suspension and, banning certain items, we need to pay very close attention, because anytime a government has come after your guns, they typically wipe out a great mass amount of population after that. So, there's just the track history of that, right? If you know your history, then you understand what I'm saying. So, all right, that's it. You guys be safe out there. Stay frosty. Keep that powder dry. There's the word. Yep. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. Check out the latest gear and products over at monkeyworksus.com.